month. Being down south. So. Okay. Give me a little window. I meant okay. Unless if she was over there, I met several people. I may have. Call me in order to call the roll, please, Mark.
Councilman Sabo. Councilman Wolford on the phone. Present. Councilman Ryan.
Here.
Councilman Brooks.
Here.
Councilman Williamson.
Here.
Councilman Lilly.
Here.
Councilman Reimer.
Here.
Councilwoman Walker. Here. Mayor Hollins.
Here.
You have quorum.
Well, please stand, Councilman Reimer. Please some word of prayer.
Dear Father, we thank you for this another day that you gave us to watch care over us. Let us be here this evening, dear God. We ask you to be with us in our meeting tonight. Be with each decision is made. When the meeting's over, you'll take us to our home safely. These things we ask in your name.
Thank you, Council. Please remain standing for pledge allegiance. Margie.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, please. For a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. City's monthly financial statement.
Nothing to see here, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, petitions, communications, and public hearings. Item A, Councilman Sabo.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to recognize Richie Robb, if you'd like to step to the podium, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Robb, you have 5 minutes.
I've read that law. I'm discussing the sanitary board. It also allows the distribution of written material. I asked the manager if he could distribute it to council members.
Be happy to. Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you. 2 years ago, in this room, probably on this very date, this city council adopted an ordinance that raised sanitary sewer rates. And those rates doubled for most people, tripled for some people. There was a public hearing held, and then comments were made by lawyers and a lawyer and I believe 1 or 2 engineers. In my opinion, I think it's clear that those individuals, had a vested interest in seeing that rate increase adopted because it proposed extensive capital construction costs that would have been beneficial to them or their firms. No questions were allowed from the public of those individuals. That alone gave me pause when the questions aren't allowed for people that are advocating higher rates, higher taxes, higher fees on ratepayers or individual citizens. Be that as it may, 2 years have gone by, and recently I learned from colleagues in this very room on the council body that it appeared to me that some changes had occurred at the sanitary board. Recently, at least they had learned of it in December. One was that storm drains would no longer be removed and simply be allowed to go into the stormwater drainage system, and in many cases go into the sanitary system, creating a load on the waste treatment plant, which was one of the, if not the primary reason for the rate increase in the first place. This was contrary to what the sanitary board, and I believe the city as well, filed prior to that rate increase. It's also contrary to what the sanitary board manager stated at a subsequent hearing at the Public Service Commission. Secondly, there was another change that I noticed in the minutes of that December meeting. There was going to be a pipe installed 600 to 800 feet long that would take the excess water during high periods of precipitation. And I only learned this at the sanitary board meeting I attended a couple of weeks ago, is there are 6 days of high precipitation. Now that doesn't seem very many to me for spending $50 million plus for rectifying excessive stormwater that goes to the treatment plant. But when you think about, this 600 to 800 foot pipe, I don't recall that either being in the, and I see on a couple of at least one member's desk, what was submitted, that being in the proposal either. It seemed to me that there were several holding tanks, several pump stations, as opposed to a single pipe.
You have 1 minute left, Mr. Robb. Thank you.
Yes. In any event, it was, it seemed to me that is more expensive than what needs to be done. Where is the extra money going? And I think City Council, you're the ones that voted for that increase. My council member said we were just approving their due diligence. No, you approved the rate increase. You own it. It's yours. What I recommend you do, what I urge you do, with these changes, you need to revisit this issue, consider reducing that rate. Doubling and tripling the rate on these individual citizens is tough. As I mentioned to the mayor the other day, think municipal service fee, $140 a month or a year, going up to $400 to $500. It's a lot of money. The manager said you can afford it. That's not the point.
Your time's up, Mr. Robb. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Item B. Lost the page here. Wait a minute. Okay, we want to recognize the YWCA. Right?
Well, good evening. Good evening. On behalf of the Guys Night Out Committee of the YWCA and clients and staff, we are here to recognize you all for a job well done. On a personal note, I, Doug Scaff, have been a resident of this great town my whole life. And I sat on that committee back for about 10 years now, for the Guys Night Out Committee, and would brag about our city services, our police chief, fire chief, all the services that South Charleston provides on a day in and day out there that we take for granted as residents. But you have many members around that committee said, if we ever had a chance to move the Guys Night Out venue to South Charleston, we need to jump at it. And I'm here to say, and I have a letter to read, but before I do that, you all went over the top. Over the top. From Gerald Berge to even Nick, to everybody that was there, day in and day out, to make sure our event was a success. So on behalf of the Guys Night Out Committee, I'm here to represent them. We are pleased to express our heartfelt appreciation to the City of South Charleston and to all your city workers, employees, staff, and everyone that helped make this one of the best events ever. In recognition of your generous hospitality in hosting this event and dedication to the elevation of poverty and homelessness in the Kanawha Valley, this 12th annual Guys Night Out, held this past November 11th, was our most fun event yet. When Major Harris says, "Can we have it here every year?" you know it was a good event. This in large part due to the perfect venue for a Mountaineer tailgate party at our historic Oaks Field. This event, so you know, we cleared over $30,000 that will go directly to the YWCA Sojourner Shelter that will support families on their path to self-sufficiency. I would like to introduce now Margaret Taylor, who's the director of the YWCA Sojourner Shelter, to tell you exactly where your all's hospitality and benefit will go to.
And I too like to thank everyone. Everyone was absolutely wonderful. I am serious, and the event was great. Everyone loved the food, the space, the lighting, the whole works. So we really do appreciate you all allowing us to come down there. Okay, I'm supposed to tell you what the money goes for, and I'm gonna give you some statistics from last year. Sojourners is not just a shelter, it is a shelter program. And last year alone, the YWCA Sojourners provided 20,562 shelter nights. 700 and service to 715 individuals, of whom 206 of those was kids, while providing 86,213 nutritious meals and 7,197 hours of case management and counseling service. As a result of that, the YWCA Sojourners' efforts, 80% of all participants gained housing and maintained their housing. 77% of all individuals gained employment and 72% maintained employment. And this is why this venture is just so important, and we can't say thank you enough. So we are excited to start planning for the 2018 events, and we look forward to blossoming partnerships and friendship with the city of Charleston. And again, on behalf of, I'm sorry. If you're recording it, please take it out. Don't want to mess this up. But we are certainly looking forward to coming back next year, because we really did have a great time last year.
Well, we look forward to having you back.
We do have we have a little something special for you. We have a letter that we just read we'd like to present to Gerald Berge and to you, Mayor, as well as a nice plaque that you can hang wherever you please.
Okay.
That has yours truly, the mayor, myself, and yours truly, the mayor, there front and center with his megaphone. And that's our official
I remember that.
poster that we put all around town. So thanks again on behalf of the whole committee. And we just want to say we look forward to 2018, this next upcoming event this fall.
We look forward to bringing you all back, and thanks. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
In front of the seal.
Oh, you want to stay back here? We can do that. Come on up, Doug. Come on up. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. I remember that day.
There you are.
Good.
You got the right colors on.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Well, again, thank you all, and we look forward to having you all back too. Obviously, we were, obviously honored to be your host, but you all deserve all the applause. You guys do the hard work, and those statistics are proof of that. So thank you all very much for what you do.
Well, I would just like to thank everybody here too. I had the honor of serving on the YWCA board, and I've never met anybody as incredible as Margaret Taylor ever in my life for the work she does for our community. So for us to be able to help her, I just appreciate it so much.
Good deal. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay. Item C, if you'd read the resolution, please, Margie.
Thank you. A resolution authorizing the mayor, city treasurer, city manager, and city clerk to take any and all actions necessary to enter into an agreement with the West Virginia State Auditor to participate in the purchasing card program.
Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Cybold. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item D, you want to recognize Miss Margie Spence. She's going to share a little certificate she received this week.
I received a certificate in the mail from the Division of Cultural History, and it's this. And that certificate reads, in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, the National Park Service, Department of the Interior, congratulates South Charleston, West Virginia on being a certified local government and partner in the Federal Preservation Program since February the 4th, 1991. I pleased to accept this certificate as chairman of the Historic Landmarks Commission for the city of South Charleston. I was also shocked because it came personally to me, so I was very proud of it.
I'm proud of you too, Mark. Okay, no bids, was the council?
No, sir.
I think so. Department head reports, anybody? Chief?
I just want to say, real quick, yesterday we did CPR and AED classes for 40 city employees. It was a nice turnout, overwhelming amount.
Did they all pass?
Yes. So we have several people trained now.
Good. That's good.
There was a good event. I mean, the fire department did a great job, and even some of the guys that never had any first aid training really got a lot out of it. And really wanted to thank Peanut and the guys down there because it was a good learning experience for most of the guys.
We'll bring this up again later. I think Rick's gonna bring the next meeting, I think, but this is kind of born out of, actually I watched a program on ESPN. I can't remember what it was, Outside the Lines or 30-30, they do those little programs. Well, it was a program about commotion of the heart. And I've heard of these things before, being involved in athletics as long as I have, where you have a tragedy where a player is killed because they get hit in the chest at a certain spot in the chest at a certain beat of the heart.
Yeah.
And it's called, there's a technical term, Cordius or something. Anyway, it's commotion of the heart is what it is. If you Google it, you can read about it. But man, I watched that thing and it was scary. I mean, I watched a lacrosse player score a goal, a college player. He scored a goal, ran around, jumping up and down, cheering, and dropped dead right on the field. And same thing had happened to a child playing baseball, soccer. It's happened in about all the youth athletic programs you can think of. These kind of things, unfortunately, have happened. And so one of the ways you combat that is the AED. And one that, behind the story was the mother of the child that passed away playing baseball. And because of her efforts in her community, their leagues had the AEDs on hand, and this did happen to another child, and his life was saved because it was there and people were trained to use it. So that's what this is born out of. It scared me a little bit as I watched it, knowing that I had a child that played baseball and actually pitched, and where you're right in the zone to get drilled like that. And it was eye-opening. And so I met with staff and brought them in. I said, look, I showed them the video. I said, here's what I want you to do. We're going to train not only our staff, but we got a hold of every organization that uses our facilities. And those people that are involved, they're coaches, they're board members, they're all going to be trained. It's going to be a mandatory, it's mandatory for those folks that use city facilities to have trained people on this AED. And we're going to do it. The fire department's going to go train them at no cost. But it's part of it, and they're all, as far as I know, they've all received it very well.
Yes, sir.
And they're all on board for it. And I'm telling you, all you got to do is watch that show. It'll get your attention. So anyway, it's a good thing we're doing. It's anybody that has children that play sports, you'll appreciate this. Trust me.
We lost a niece 2 years ago in a tennis tournament in Florida that didn't have an AED. She dropped and was gone. So that's how important they are.
So anyway, that's where it was born from, and Rick will bring you some financial information. I think next meeting we're ready to buy these AEDs. Chief went out and got a grant to help us offset the cost. So we'll have these at every facility where we have youth athletic programs.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's a good thing. Anyway, Chief, anything else on that? You were
That's all.
okay. Jamie, yes, sir.
Yeah. Along the lines of that, of our community involvement with that, just how much we do, reading the paper this week and with what's going on at the Capitol. Again, South Charleston was pivotal in the carbon monoxide detectors.
Mm-hmm.
And with what we found at Montrose and where they stepped up and stepped out on that, now it's become a statewide concern. But again, with our city organizations becoming community members and community helpers and involved, at least look what the impact we're going to have there, and another place where we could save a child's life. So it is great the way we do get involved, and we are out there in the community and serving the community, not just from our services, but getting involved in the coat drives, the toy drives that the police department does, everything that we do how we impact our community. And it's really something we should all be proud of.
Thank you, Councilman. Anybody else? Yes, sir, Councilman Lilly.
I'd like Arnett to tell us about the batting cage. that
Oh,
they got in
okay.
down there. Because it should get a lot of use once people know we have it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Steve, we finally got that installed with the help of Steve and his guys this week. We already got Jeremy Cummings and Steve Crocher on board, and they got South Charleston Middle School, Riverside, and a couple more high schools coming in to use the batting cage. So since we've had it installed, we have a lot of inquiries about it. So
Steve and Jeremy doing clinics?
yes, they're doing clinics, bringing kids in. So I think it's going to be
That's two good ones to do it.
Yeah, huge success. So I just had a guy from Huntington call me. He has a travel team that he wants to bring in and use the batting cage. So
It's on a cable?
yes,
Yeah.
and you can store it. So
Yeah,
that's there.
slides back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
That's a neat system, watch it.
You been down there
You're
swinging?
I like that.
Do we have a pitching machine too?
No, we'll probably get that
So
later.
somebody's actually throwing?
Yeah, we got an L screen so they can be behind it and throw a ball. So. And it's got a divider so you can use two sides of it.
Right. Good, okay. Anything else?
I'd like to hear Steve respond to the letter that Richard Robb presented.
You asked me a specific question, and I'll respond. That thing it was so full of such gross misrepresentations of the facts. I mean, I can't respond to it. So what specifically would you like to know?
Well, how's things going with it? I know we passed it in 16, estimated $2.4 million in additional revenue. Where's that money going to?
So far, we have replaced, removed catch basins that were directly connected to the sanitary sewer system on Central, on Nancy, on Oakdale, D Street, last spring and summer, by contract. We replaced 700 feet of the First Avenue main outfall line with a 36-inch new line parallel to it last summer. We are in the process of adding a automatic mechanical bar screen at the treatment plant at the headworks, which is under contract right now. We bid out a major electric upgrade at the treatment plant, which was the first really major big ticket item that we were going to do. And that was the one that was going to necessitate a bond, because we would have had the cash, but it would have made us, it would have really hindered the cash flow. And so you all approved the bond. The reason we didn't go forward with that was because the estimated price through Dow was $7 million. And when it actually come in, the final price was $14 million, which we have a 30% share of that, and that was too much. That was beyond our budget. So now that's being redesigned, so that was scrapped for the time being. Should be bid out again this summer, be redesigned to fit our budget.
Are you still, on your estimate here, that to achieve full compliance, you had 60 to 80 million? Are you still with that, within that range? Is it higher or lower?
You're asking me to predict something that's way off into the future. Right now, without a guarantee, I would say lower, and here's why I would say probably lower, because we've made some significant changes. So I was accused of changes tonight, but the implication was changes was bad. And while you all were there, y'all didn't catch that at the meeting. See, the changes aren't bad. If I make a change, it's probably good. We were able to make a change after the rate increase that got our permit changed from being an SSO to a CSO. The difference is, if you're an SSO, which means separated sewer system, it means you can never overflow or bypass ever, which means you have to design and build a system that will handle all the water that ever comes. And we will always have stormwater intermixed with sanitary sewage when it rains. You'll never get rid of it, so you have to be big enough to handle that. And if you never bypass, it was a huge expense. I attempted to estimate that, and that's where the 60 or 80 million come from. That probably would have been higher than that, but I don't know any of us have been around at that time. It's 20, 30, 40 years down the road. After the rate increase was passed, we were successful in negotiating with the DEP. There would be a CSO, which is Combined Sewer Overflow Community, which means we will be allowed to bypass to the river during precipitation events. Not willy-nilly anytime we want, but it's regulated. And you will ultimately be allowed to bypass 6 times a year. Well, 6 times a year is better than no times a year, way better than no times a year. So therefore, the cost to implement this will be way less than what it would be if you could never bypass. Now, the reason we had to make that change was back in 1993, the former administration appealed and went to court to become a separate community, to charge the city on the track of never being able to bypass. It's inexplicable. I have no idea why they did that, but they did, and they chartered the city on this very expensive path. The DEP said at a meeting we all went to, you'll never get that changed. But we were able to get it changed. And by doing that, we saved the city, I mean, I can't give you dollar amount, but significant, probably half. Well, I can't even say half, but because the other was really not even measurable, because you would never achieve it. So how do you apply a price to something you'd never be able to achieve? But we'll be able to do it for a whole lot less and achieve compliance. Now, the 6 times that was mentioned, I don't know if it was mentioned in the letter, but it's mentioned in the commentary. The 6 times is what the federal government will allow you to bypass in a rain. 6 times a year, you'll be able to bypass to the river. And like I say, that's a whole lot better than none. And right now, we bypass to the river on a typical year. I don't know, I don't have the figures in front of me, but I'd say somewhere between 20 and 30 times, maybe more. So there's still a lot of reduction to be had. But it's now achievable, where before it could have never happened. Now, I'll go ahead, before you ask me, I'll answer this question. I didn't say what was said, I said, okay? And you all missed this in the board meeting when you were there. What I said was, there was absolutely no use to spend millions of dollars to take out downspouts and build storm sewer systems to accommodate the water that's taken out of those downspouts that does not do anything to reduce those overflows to get us closer to that 6 times. You can spend all this money and take out downspouts from people's houses that are connected to the sanitary sewer, which requires us working on private property, which is another problem that I have a problem with doing. And you can do all that, and you still have so much water in the system, you overflow. Rock Lake Village is a good example. The Walnut Street area is a good example. 9th, 10th, 11th Avenue downtown goes to the F Street pump station, good example. Downspouts are out. When it rains, we're covered up with water. So where's the rest of the water come from? Well, it comes from a lot of different sources. So, for example, let's take the Riverside area, for example. We flooded that on Christmas night a couple of years ago because I accidentally concreted in what was supposed to have been a closed overflow, and I remember that. It was rigged so that it overflowed and nobody realized it, and we flooded a couple basements and run Christmas. So that's one of the areas that needs addressed. Now it's open, it's allowed to overflow. Well, it may overflow once a year, maybe twice a year, right now. As we said right now, maybe twice a year. We could take out all the downspouts down there. There's a sewer that runs like behind the houses and behind the businesses on McCorkle Avenue, behind the tire store and all the way down through to I guess it's Michael Wayne or Post Street. And there's no access to it, very expensive. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to take that out. Well, by being a CSO and being able to go 6 times, we don't need to take anything out. We can leave those alone. We don't have to take those out because we're only bypassing 2 times a year now. So that's a good example. I don't have to take those out. We can just go ahead and bypass and be in compliance. See what I'm saying? Jefferson Park was the example I used in the board meeting. I'm not probably telling you more than you asked, but Jefferson Park is another example. That's the one I used in the board meeting that I drew the picture up on the board. I had our consulting engineer prepare a plan to take out, we smoke tested, they prepared a plan to take out all the downspouts that are left tied into the sanitary sewer in Jefferson Park. Because it's such a flat area, it had to extend storm sewers, which aren't there, in order to accommodate that, or else I, as city engineer, would get all kinds of complaints because I'm dumping stormwater from my property onto his property. So we've got to take it somewhere. The cost, the engineer's cost to do that was in the order of $500,000 to $600,000. In order to meet my 6 times at that overflow at Liberty Street, I only have to store about 50,000 gallons, which means I can put in a 6-foot diameter pipe, and I don't know the actual feet of it, but it's not very many feet. It's not 600 to 800 feet. It's maybe 100 feet or so underground. Instead of overflowing to the river, I overflow to that pipe. I can put that pipe in, not overflow to the river, meet my 6 times a year for about $200,000. Now I can take out all those downspouts for $500,000 to $600,000, and I still have the same water I have to deal with. I didn't solve the problem. I just took water out, but I still have the same problem because the water comes from a lot of other sources other than the downspouts. So why would I spend $500,000 or $600,000 of the sewer user's money to do something that didn't solve the problem? Wouldn't I be smarter to go ahead and spend a third or a half that much and put in the underground storage pipe that would solve the problem? Now it was said, well, you didn't say anything about this when I made the rate increase in the report. Yes, I did. I said we would use storage. Storage was one of the components of trying to achieve compliance. At that time, compliance was no overflows ever. Storage was a component at F Street, storage was a component at Upton Creek, and storage is a component at the treatment plant. All I'm doing is taking that same idea and making simplified storage in other locations to achieve compliance at I think at what will be a whole lot lesser cost.
Well, what I'm asking about, Steve, is, the cost, the 6 to 80 million. I've got people complaining to me still today about, having a hard time paying the increased fee. And I think that the last time that we brought up the sewer thing, I asked Ben on this council floor, is there a chance that it's going to be cheaper? And that's all I'm doing today, is it going to be cheaper?
Let me answer just part of that, Stephen, because Steve and I have talked about this many times, and I hope there's more changes that the DEP will accept, because what we're trying to do is hold the cost down so we don't have to revisit this again anytime soon. We didn't address 60 to 80 million. We addressed a third of that.
Yeah.
We just addressed enough, hopefully, to get us by to get in compliance with DEP, but we're not subject to hefty fines and things. We got to get in compliance, and we're trying, as the years go by, anytime we can do something more efficiently, whether it's financially or otherwise, we're going to do that, and we're going to make those changes.
My goal is to see that we eventually get lower instead of keep getting higher.
That's our goal. That's our goal. Is to try to, and we said this at the time the rate increase was brought up. This could be revisited again in 10 years. All we did was take care, we had a 10-year plan. Is that correct, Steve? Remember, sir, we had a 10-year plan. We didn't address the whole 60 to 80 million. We didn't address we addressed what we had to address, and we were being told we had to address this now. And that's what we did. It could have been higher. If we'd addressed the 60 to 80, it'd have been more. Now we're trying to make sure that down the line, we don't have to address this again anytime soon. That's what we're trying to do, Jeff. So there's going to be changes. I hope there's changes for the better. Steve should be applauded for what he did, not criticized.
I'm not criticizing.
I didn't say you were.
But did we not address a worst case scenario? This was dropped on us with not a whole lot of information going into it. We couldn't predict everything that they were going to require. It was just it's not a worst case scenario that we were looking at, and like we talked about, we were going to address what we had to do in the onset. And then go as we went. Things could be made changes.
You approved a rate increase to address the first phase of a scenario.
Yes.
That was I didn't tell you the worst case scenario because.
Well, in my mind, it was the worst case because we had that out there. We had that out there, and we had to address what we needed to do to move forward.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I felt too. We were moving forward with what we had to, that we knew that we had to do in a 10-year plan. And that was the numbers to move forward with it.
As I was telling somebody today, I have a huge spreadsheet, which is the worst case scenario. I didn't have the heart to tell you that. But if we were to, at that time, to never overflow under any rain event, any circumstance, as we were under permit in order to do prior to getting that changed, then probably you're looking at not just taking out everybody's downspouts, but half or more of the city that has old customer service lines that leak and have roots in them and tree roots growing through them that is World War II age or better, having those replaced. Now, if you've ever had your service line replaced at your house, you're looking at $10,000–$15,000 to do that. We'll figure several thousand houses at that price to do it.
Absolutely.
And that's that's one of the biggest sources of where that infiltration comes from, is leaky service lines. The other problem, which I have no idea how to plug a price in, but I did plug a value in, is most of the houses in the flat area of South Charleston, and even on some of the hill sections, have footer drains. People with basements have footer drains. They are low enough that they're all tied into the sanitary sewer. And there's nothing to do with those right now other than run them to the sanitary sewer. If you were to take those out, and if you were to never have an overflow, you would have to take them out. You're looking at major storm sewer extensions at a very deep excavation in order to achieve it. So that's what I mean when I'm being a little facetious, but that's why I didn't have the heart to tell you the worst case scenario. But this is a much better case scenario. And I agree with you. If I can get it done, me or someone, I probably won't be around. But if me or someone can get this done cheaper than that, then more than likely, to be honest, I'll give you an honest answer. It won't be that money will be returned, but it'll be the future rate increases won't be as high, or maybe not even happen. Which is kind of the same thing.
That's what we're trying to work towards. That's what we're trying to work towards. And so.
Don't forget, see, Councilman, I pay this too. So none of us, there's not a person here that likes a higher rate for their sewer bill. And this month, when you're getting $400 or $500 electric bills and gas bills, nobody likes this, and I understand that. I do understand. But we all have an obligation to comply with the law, and we're not just doing this just to collect money or just for the fun of it. It's being done to be in compliance with the federal government. And I'm not even going to say that I agree with the law, but I'm not in a position to make decisions whether I agree with that law or not. I took an oath standing here in front of the mayor that said I would abide by the laws and the Constitution of the government of the United States. So that's what the law requires. And that's what we need, that's what we're working toward as efficiently and cost effectively as possible.
Anything else?
That's all I got for that.
Okay, anybody else? Department heads? Questions, anybody?
You know what, Gerald, it's gonna start snowing.
We're there.
Yeah, well, we probably already have. No committee reports? Motion adjourned?
So moved.
All in favor?
Pack your snacks out, Gerald.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got the felt shot.
Hey, are we invited to that, training?